Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession and the chapel.
I declare that the 504th Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning. My name is Dr. Peter Smith, Acting Provost and Vice President Academic of the University. This morning, I have the great pleasure of acting as your Master of Ceremonies and of welcoming you all to Convocation ceremonies. Before we start our formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that may ring or beep during the ceremony. I would like to now call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Linton Wilson, to make his own welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and a very good morning to you all. President, Vice Chancellor, Provost, Dean McNutt, Honorary graduate, members of the platform party, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this 504th Convocation of McMaster University. To our graduands, congratulations on your successes, on reaching an important milestone, an exciting milestone in your lives. Many of you will begin careers, embarking on new journeys. Some of you will be continuing your education, training, or preparation for more advanced or specialized activities. The very best of luck to each and every one of you. To the parents, grandparents, family members, spouses, and friends here today, I invite you to take a bow as well. You can be proud of the roles you've played in the accomplishments being recognized in this convocation. To our faculty and staff, today marks tangible recognition of your efforts, particularly the successes of your students evident in this ceremony. Thank you and congratulations. This is a day of celebration. I wish you all an enjoyable morning. Thank you.
I would like now to introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Terry O'Reilly. There is likely some irony in the fact that Terry O'Reilly, the consummate advertising and marketing man, has become an icon and brand himself as one of the most creative professionals and insightful observers of advertising, marketing, and popular culture, not just in Canada, but globally. Mr. O'Reilly began his career as a copy chief for a small radio station in Burlington, and then went on to become a senior copywriter at leading creative advertising agencies, including Campbell Ewald, Lowe Goodgill, Doyle Dane Bernbach, and Chiat Day. In 1990, he co-founded Pirate Radio and Television, an agency that specializes in audio production for radio and television commercials. Pirate Radio has since grown to a staff of more than 50, with offices and recording studios in Toronto and New York, making it the largest sound production company in Canada and the United States. Through more than 2 decades of work on many of the highest profile brands and most creative campaigns, the Pirate Group has established an archive of creative material that is one of the most impressive in the industry. Mr. O'Reilly and his colleagues at Pirate recently partnered with McMaster University to make that archive the largest advertising archive in Canada, available for academic research and instruction across a variety of academic disciplines, including cultural studies, multimedia, marketing, and art. Mr. O'Reilly has won hundreds of national and international awards for writing and directing. Marketing Magazine named him one of Canada's most influential marketing people, and in 2005, he was chosen to be the first Canadian judge for the inaugural year of radio at the Cannes Advertising Festival. He has been jury chairman for the Canadian Marketing Awards, the International Clio Awards, and the London International Advertising Awards. He has also been the host for the Advertising and Design Club of Canada Awards for more than a dozen years. In most cases, the general public is far more aware of the work of an advertising professional than the professional himself. Mr. O'Reilly, however, has become Canada's most recognizable voice and analyst of advertising and marketing. A frequent public speaker and media commentator on topics that include contemporary culture, cause marketing, perception change, strategic thinking and innovation, he is perhaps best known as the host, co-producer, and co-writer of the award-winning CBC Sirius WBEZ Chicago radio program, The Age of Persuasion. The program has more than 800,000 listeners in Canada alone, and it was the most downloaded podcast in Canada on iTunes for 7 consecutive months. The program's podcast was chosen as the best new podcast of 2011 by iTunes, and was awarded the Grand Prize Trophy at the New York Radio Festivals. He is the co-author with Mike Tennant of the best-selling book, also called The Age of Persuasion. And earlier this year, Mr. O'Reilly premiered a new radio series called Under the Influence. In 2005, the Advertising and Design Club of Canada presented Mr. O'Reilly with the Les Usherwood Lifetime Achievement Award. And in 2008, he was inducted into the Marketing Hall of Legends. He won the Television Bureau of Canada's Fritz Spice Lifetime Achievement Award in 2009. Mr. Chancellor, Terry O'Reilly is a legendary creative force in advertising and marketing, and someone who has helped bring the insight of that industry to an international audience of readers and listeners. In recognition of this work, as well as his strong support for connecting his industry with higher education, I ask that you confer upon Mr. O'Reilly the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Terry O'Reilly, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, in McMaster University, with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Come and sign the book.
Thank you.
It's now my great pleasure to invite Dr. O'Reilly to deliver the Convocation address. Dr. O'Reilly.
Thank you so much for that incredible introduction that I could not possibly live up to. What an amazing morning this is. I am so incredibly honored to be here and to accept this incredible degree. Congratulations, graduates. What a day. And to all the proud parents and grandparents in the room. It's also meaningful to me because my family's here today, my parents and my beautiful wife and 3 daughters. My parents finally get to see their son get a degree. That's a little inside family joke there. I know a lot of speeches at convocations are about the importance of following your passions and reaching for high ideals and noble pursuits. All important things, to be sure. But I wanted to talk to the graduates about something else today. I watched a movie recently, and one of the themes in that film was, all you need is 20 seconds of courage. And I want to say to you today, there will be times when that 20 seconds of courage, if you can muster it, will change your life. And when I heard that theme in that film, it resonated immediately with me, because I can look back on my 30-plus year career and I can clearly see where that 20 seconds affected my life. When I was looking for my first advertising agency copywriting job, fresh out of school, excited, keen, green, I spent a lot of time putting together a portfolio of spec advertisements and print ads that I could show to a prospective creative director to show him or her what I was capable of. But I knew that I couldn't show the portfolio to a creative director unless I got an interview. So I made a list of the 20 best advertising agencies in Canada that I thought were the best, found out who their creative directors were, and wrote down their phone numbers. And then I remember resting my hand on the phone for 10 minutes, trying to get up the courage to call them. And I had nothing to offer them except a fresh point of view and a promise to work hard. I had no credentials, no track record, not even any real ads under my belt, and my hand just lay on the receiver. I knew they were the busiest people on the planet. I knew they didn't really have time to talk to a green copywriter or a wannabe copywriter like me. And then I thought, all they can say is no, or yell no. So I mustered up my 20 seconds of courage, and I dialed the first number on the list. And I managed, amazingly, to get through to one of the top creative directors in the country, told him I was a green copywriter that would like to present my spec portfolio that would be in and out of his office in 2 minutes. And he told me, okay, come in for an interview 2 days from now. So with that 20 seconds of courage, I landed my first interview. And when I finally met that creative director, he breezed into his office in a full-length, floor-length fur coat. I'd never seen a floor-length fur coat on a man before. And when I saw that, my heart froze. I could tell he was busy, I could tell he was important, and that I was his first speed bump in the day. So he went through my 24-ad portfolio in about 4 seconds, and then he said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 weeks of work. So as we stood there looking at each other, shaking hands, my next 20 seconds of courage bubbled up, and I said, but if you like me, will you keep me? And he looked at me, and he laughed, and he said, we'll see. So that first phone call, first interview, 40 total seconds of courage, and I was at my first major advertising agency as a copywriter. After 10 days, he hired me full-time, which was amazing. 2 months later, I noticed that the senior creative people in that agency were struggling on a big television project for our biggest client. The client had turned everything down. He wasn't happy. There was a lot of pressure, a lot of stress at the agency. And one day, I stood outside the creative director's office for about 10 minutes, trying to muster up the courage to ask him if I could work on it. You have to understand that junior writers don't get a crack at big television campaigns and advertising agencies. That's the sole domain of the senior ranks. And I just couldn't bring myself to knock on his door as I stood there. I just couldn't do it. Because I knew it was an outrageous request. So when I turned to leave, he just burst out of his office, bumped into me and said, yes, Terry? And I swallowed really hard, and I blurted out my 20 seconds, and I said, would you mind if I took a crack at that television campaign? And I remember him just standing there staring at me and said, okay, I want ideas by tomorrow. So I went home, worked till about 4 a.m., came up with an idea that I thought was pretty good, went in the next day, presented it to him, and he loved it. So the next thing you know, I'm in Chicago. I'm filming a commercial with the top commercial director in North America. That commercial went on to win the Gold Award as Best TV Spot of the Year. And it had all come down, graduates, to that 20 seconds that I asked to work on it. That's what made that happen. I had 2 months under my belt, and I was asking to work on the most important project in the agency. That's why it took so much courage for me to speak up. Suddenly, as a result of that commercial, the creative director started bringing me in on all the top projects. And the industry took notice of me, and I didn't stay a junior for long. And that's really the heart of my message to the graduates today. There will be moments in your career where 20 seconds of courage will make all the difference. And you'll be able to recognize those moments because your heart starts to pump, your mouth goes dry, you swallow hard, and you know if you don't speak up, that moment will be lost forever. You'll know those moments immediately. The 20-second rule will apply to your whole life, by the way. Years later, I was a senior copywriter at Chiat Day, which was the best advertising agency in North America, most awarded. The agency was founded by a legendary man named Jay Chiat, who was no shrinking flower. And the shop was led by maybe the greatest creative director of our era to this day, named Lee Clow, the two top advertising people in North America. They had done all the Apple work with Steve Jobs by that time, among many other achievements. The agency was based in Los Angeles. They were opening up a Toronto office. I was one of the first creative hires that the Toronto office made. I had never met Jay Chiat or Lee Clow before. They were looming legends in our business. And one day, Chiat Day Toronto, where I worked, was invited to our biggest pitch up until that time. And when it came time to assign roles for that pitch, the president of Toronto said, okay, who's going to present the creative ideas to, it was Labatt. Who's going to present the creative ideas to Labatt? And no hands went up. And a lot was riding on that presentation. And I thought, okay, I swallowed hard and I put my hand up. And he said, okay, O'Reilly will present the creative ideas. And then he went on to assign other roles. I realized why nobody had put their hands up a few minutes later when somebody whispered to me that Jay Scheid and Lee Clow were coming up for the presentation. Good God. I not only had to get up in front of a big boardroom full of Labatt executives and try and persuade them to give us a big piece of business, I actually had to do it in front of Jay Scheid and Lee Clow. But it was too late. My damned 20 seconds of courage had got me into this predicament, and there was no backing out. In the cab on the way over to the presentation, Jay Scheid, the mighty Jay Scheid, is sitting beside me, who I'd just met, and he said to me, "Terry, do you feel well prepared for this presentation?" And I said, "Yeah, Jay, I feel pretty good." And he said, "Well, we'll see, won't we?" I could feel that drip of sweat right above the coccyx. But I went into that presentation. I did pretty well. Labatt's ended up giving us that business. My currency went up at Scheid Day, and in particular with Jay Scheid and Lee Clow, and it was 20 seconds of courage that made me stick my hand up. That's what it took. When I look back, the fear holding me back was almost always unfounded when it finally unfolded. It was always fear of the unknown. That's what will hold you back. That'll be the threshold you'll be afraid to step across, is fear of the unknown. But once it became known, I actually got through that, it was manageable. It wasn't overwhelming. You watch, you learn, you do, and then that's not so scary anymore. Heavyweight champion boxers aren't fearless. They just know how to deal with fear. It keeps them on a necessary edge, it fuels their desire, and it undercuts overconfidence, which is so important. Just when I was at the high point of my career, making a big salary, working at a great advertising agency, I came to a conclusion that I wanted to start my own company. But I needed 20 seconds of courage to say it out loud to my wife. We had just bought our first home, we just had our first daughter, and I was wanting to leave the security of a job and do all that inside 18 months. And I was 29. When I finally worked up the courage to say it out loud to my wife, Debbie, I remember she paused and she stared at me for what seemed like 10 minutes without blinking. And I could see her doing some serious math in her head. And then she said the most amazing thing. She said, "What's the worst thing that can happen to us if it doesn't work out?" To which I said, "Well, we could lose everything." And she paused and said, "Okay, let's do it." And for that moment alone, I will always love that woman. And that was 1989. Now, not long ago, graduates, I found myself in the boardroom of CBC pitching a radio show about advertising to the advertising-free CBC. And what I knew about producing a weekly radio show back then wouldn't fill a thimble. And I said to myself, okay, we'll cross that bridge, crying, later. So I just found 20 seconds of courage to stand up in that boardroom and say to the CBC that I think I could put on a weekly radio show. And that was 7 years ago. Graduates, the big beats of your life, the big beats of your career will hinge on 20 seconds of courage. I hope you take a little piece of this talk with you when you leave this wonderful institution today. Tuck it away in your heart, write it on a small piece of paper, hide it in your purse or your wallet. Just write down just 20 seconds of courage. And when those moments arrive and you feel yourself freezing in place, pull that paper out and then ask for the opportunity. Don't wait for the opportunity to come to you. Those 20 seconds of courage, will change your life, and you will remember them for the rest of your days. So, congratulations, McMaster graduates. What a day this is. Now go get them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. O'Reilly. Some great words of advice. I've had a few 20-second moments. Some of them felt more like 20-minute moments to make decisions. But the work you do is important. I recently saw a list of the biggest brands, the most valuable brands in the world, a lot of which are built by images, by advertising, by marketing, by promotion. But the numbers are staggering. Billions and billions of dollars of value attributed to brands, the result of work of the type you do. So creating value is not always manufacturing or trading derivatives. It can also be very important work in marketing and advertising. Congratulations to you on your career.
Dr. Patrick Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit you to your individual degrees in McMaster University with all the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all.
Please be seated. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, may I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study, but who are not present.
I declare all these degrees conferred in absentia.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you into the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduates you would hold your applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduate of the degree Doctor of Philosophy, Hu Yu Wu. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Business Administration. Mohammed Abdel Aziz. David Agro. Tamam Al-Dandachi. Noor Alayan. Raghuparan Anantharaja. Arslan Ansari. Jules Bajos. Mutiat Bello. John Paul Berlingeri. Michael Israel Bernholtz. Amy N. Berta. Novarup Singh Bhati. Ryan Morgan Beast. Giuseppe Camisa. Stephanie Carter. Andrew Centea. Stephen John Charco. Duvasa Salim Chatagun. Nida Chowdhury. Jeffrey Christensen. Julia Lauren Clauser. Matthew Connolly. Kyle Darcy. Amanda D'Otenzio. Farhad Kersi Daruwala. Karim Darwaze. Michael William Derkach. Ruby Dillon. David Di Donato. John Douglas. Rohit Dubey. Harpreet Kaur Dulai. Ramzi Hana El Hayek. Hashem Mohammed El Senati. Sean Emmons. Mike David Evans. Abbas Fazal Boy. Alison L. Fenney. Jean-Pierre Gomez Fialo. Michelle Franklin. Mike Gallo-Matze. Ryan Douglas Gerald. Lauren Elizabeth Giles. Ryan William Giles. Michael James Goulet. Jasdeep Grewal. Navjeet Grewal. Jason Paul Haley. Gurjit Singh Hans. Daniel Hengeveld. Peter Ho. Brian Holder. Lucas Hull. Senna Hussain. Anya Iacic. Nida Yabrani. Danielle Jane. Ray Jumis. Aditi Kaura. Dori Kazimir. Suna Khatri. Akanksha Kulshrestha. Jason Kustra. Samer Kuwatli. René Lachance. Gulruch Lada. Stephanie Lawrence. Joel Austin Levitt. Catherine Elizabeth Leslie. Carolyn Margaret Levy. Cecilia Lee. Christopher Andrew Lehman. Michael Matthew Kevin Long. Peter Lowe. Ji Chen Lu. Winona Mahase. Diwakar Malik. Daniel James Maltese. Yeman Man. Akshay Mathur. Colin Thomas McKean. Keith Andrew Medeiros. Sarah Maitre. Michael Stephen Milovanovic. Michael Robert Mocherniak. Ryan Patrick Moran. Dori Nurafkan. Stephen Oostrom. Edward Charles Orlick. Abhijit Vinod Paralikar. Lydia Pardu. Manan Parikh. William Alexander Payton. Joanna Ellis Periviersov. Andrew Douglas Perkins. Joshua Gerald Albert Pinto. Tanya Podkodnyak. Juliet Prowse. Chiao Yun Chian. Dilani Rabindran. Aaron David Randall. Sayanthan Ravindranathan. Jeffrey Reiner. Matthew Anthony Rosato. Navdeep Sandar. Michael Joseph Sherlock. Raspreet Sidhu. Ahmed Sirwadi. Raja Narayan Singh. Gloria So. Derek Ströbel. Andrew Tarasiewicz. Ashley Dawn Tattersall. Mandeep Thandi. Alec Reed Thomas. Saravanan Uthayalingam. Mark van der Pol. Vinod Vijayan. Bruce Waltham. Karen Weiser. Georgia Whitehead. Chang Yang. Teresa Just. Yilang Zhao. Kevin Zich. Chelsea Zilstra.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Commerce Honors. Leila Abdul Rahim. Lindsay Adams. Al-Karim Adatia. Anwoluapo Adewaye. Arij Al-Sadi. Hamad Arawi. Ashley Caesar Alexander. Kelly Mariana Amaral. Abdullah Andijani. Laura Emilia Annabelle. Adam Annabelle. Dustin David Armstrong. Neil Donald Essen Ashby. Delia Elizabeth Balkasoon. Nalisha Bandali. Emily Banznarayan. Anthony Stephen Barta. Jessica Bastos. Sarah Jane Beck. Caitlin Marie Bernacki. Monica Bialobrevsky. Mohammad Rafe Bintahir. Charlotte Blakeman. John David Blanchard. Quincy Marriott Bodway. Jesse Travis Boschler. Zachary Michael Bondarenko. Si Chang Samuel Bong. Graham James Bowes. Thomas Brose. Manish Budathoki. Matthew Anthony Bambaka. Elizabeth Megan Byron. Lily Kai. Wee Kai. Michelle Stephanie Cantar. Leon Kun Hong Chan. Samuel Chan. Adrian Chang. Shan Chen. Fang Fang Chang. Xiu Ming Chang. Danielle Chin. Man Wai Choi. Elizabeth Sora Chung. Virginia Marie Church. Jingmin Chui. Aubrey Gabriel Cohen. Rafael Conforti. Charles Cook. Thomas Edward David Cooper. Michelle Oriol Correa. Lucas Benjamin Cox. Samantha Kroll. Andrea Maria da Silva. Colin D'Souza. Darlene Lynn Marie D'Souza. Stacy Da Costa. Andrew Da Silva. Russell James Davey. Brittany Davison. Sean Michael Ducars. Carla Doss. Brendan Paul Downey. Robert Draper Chislett. Jonathan Drover. Miles Dumont. Amelia Elizabeth Dumoulin. Nathan Mitchell Emmons. Charmin Esmail. Dylan Utenier. Abdul Wasey Farouki. Sarah Nicole Flanagan. Tess Fox. Jennifer Frendenberg. Matt Garrison. Alicia Rafaela Gatto. Nicole Gauthier. Milan Marco Gabrick. Taryn Ray G. Joanna Elizabeth Garum. Maruna Georgiou. Kristen Godwin. Arush Goyal. Herog Graywall. Courtney Siobhan Maeve Griffin. Stephen Louis Grimaldi. Jiao Yun Guo. Zijing Guo. Anupriya Gupta. Rui Han. Wenting Han. Ayuri Jamila Harrison. Siyu He. Joel Helder. Lee Christine Higgins. Krista Jacqueline Hogan. Matthew Leslie Hologroski. Alistair Paul Hopkins. Kaylin Hopley. Alexandra Hruska. Huiji Hu. Jingyu Huang. Quan Han Hung. Tausif Hussein. Mohammed Hussein. Charlie Ivy. Andrew Douglas Jack. Elene Jacobs. Catherine Amanda Jelowika. Kaylee Diana Jameson. Alexander Jemkojian. Nikola Jaskova. Eric Michael Jersky. Andrea Kadi. Amy Kaznikas. Kavitha Kathir. Stephen Neil Kelly. Ala Kalaf. Naval Khan. Zado Kuri. Igor Knezik. Michael Edward Crick. Nelson Kwok. Kenneth Corey Kwong. Gregory David Lagerquist. Amanda Jess Laird. Hoi Shing Lam. Peter Andre Langer. Chuk Yin Lao. Natalie Homan Law. Stephanie Jennifer Law. Robert Scott Laws. Andrew Leal. Cheryl Chu Yi Lee. Zhuho Lee. Patrick Peng Lung Lee. Megan Lenz. Andrea Lisa Leon. Kyle Jung. Jennifer Lewis. Juan Lee. Shan Lee. Yafei Lee. Yingkai Lee. Rong Lin. Wei Bo Lin. Ying Lin. Sing Ting Candy Liu. Justin Lowe. Renee Lowe. Yeta Hugh To Lowe. Jonathan William Lawrence Loopstra. Nicholas David Lopecki. Shuyan Lu. Kevin Lowe. Kong Ying Lu. David Look. Kathleen Lu. Sean Alexander McLean. David Giovanni Maduri. Scott Maduri. Shamza Mamdani. Jaza Manzano. Natalie Marshall. John Andrew Martinko. Christina Amanda Martins. Leah Victoria Matulovic. Caitlin McClintock. Cassandra McDermott. Grace Elizabeth Magecki. Kayla Lauren McKeesey. Brendan Edward McMahon. Paul McNabb. Alexandra McNulty. Brendan James McNulty. Annie May. Allison Jean Michelli. Sarah Mogarbel. Colleen Suzanne Morris. Omar Stephan Mughal. Andrew Mackenzie Muir. Adam Murphy. Tala Nasreddin. Samantha Simone Naylor. Mitchell Neal. Claudia Edith Ning. Yong Thi Mai Nguyen. Brandon William Nixon. Michael P. Nowaki. Ronald Niero. Alexandra Marie O'Neill. Brandon Andrew O'Neill. Christopher Malcolm O'Neill. Miki Ogidi. Mercedes Logan Oram. Kyle Jonathan Pagetto. Maisha Patel. Shuo Feng Peng. Kaylee Ann Vipers. Kevin Pogakar. Richard Porras. Matthew Alexander Prez. Yong Mao Chi. Ya Jun Jin. Kevin Patrick Quinlan. Scott Eric Quinn. Rehan Rice. Kristalev Divina Ramos. Robert Paul Ricciardoni. Adam Garrett Rewald. Ashley Roberts. Samantha Rowland. Bayan Yong. Matthew Rizicki. Tara B. Ryan. Misha Sajad. Gurbir Singh Samra. Ryan Michael Sandberg. Rajveer Singh Sandhu. Crisias Catalan. Janelle Rosalind Schaefer. Ian William Scott. Laura Scott. Naim Sertoli. Fabiano Squadron. Schwan Shali. Mackenzie Shaw. Edward Shin. Jamal Shivram. Amrit Kaur Sidhu. Ian James Sinclair. Ashish Singh. Troy Anand Singh. Alfred Siu. Caitlin Danielle Scooz. Ashley Alexandra Sloan. Ian James Smith. Stephen Neil Smith. Jonathan Joseph Solda. Stephen James Somerville. Tudor Stanescu. James Huxley Steels. Kyle Douglas Steep. Olivia Catherine Still. Jonathan Jacob Stipa. Emily Ann Jessica Talbot. Whitney Tam. Xiao Tang. Heather Catherine Thompson. Kyle Vincent Thornton. George Tianik. Michael Roy Tudorovich. Yu Tong. Alina Bianca Trambitas. Ali Ushak Sarai. Prathib Uthayakumar. Ryan Vashon. Geneviève Vaillant. Siobhan Laura Vandenboer. Ryan Paul Vandenhangel. Connor Joseph Van Riesen. Benjamin Verkerk. Bethany Laura Wall. Bei Wang. Jingyu Wang. Meng Nan Wang. Guanan Wei. Carly Wellsford. Marissa Lee Wenner. Chelsea Elizabeth White. Diane Whittick. Christina Wong. Vincent Wong. Patricia Wozniak. Ying Yang. Jian Zhao. Zhao Yu Yu. Cheng Yang. Ping Yi. Shan Yi. Jinli Ying. Patrick Wan. Jennifer Yun. Annie Zhang. Jing Zhao. Yunsi Esther Zhao. Xiao Hua Zhang. Di Li Zhu. Christopher Zimmerman. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Commerce. Malia Abu Zaid. Tanvi Atavli. Harika Azar. Simran Bansal. Veronica Chan. Lisa Choi. Matthew D'Amico. Christopher DaCosta. Anita Alia Damji. Anthony Fantuzzi. Anne-Marie Fernando. Carmen Fong. Sydney Omololu Forsyth. Michael Gayed. Elena Marie Giles. Carrie Hing. Mark Wei Guo. Robin Kwan. Alan Man Yin Lai. Ryan Laidlaw. Yu Lei. Yingwen Li. Shan Ying. Raymond Engel. Nicholas Panetta. Hader Reyna. Kyle Nathan Richardson. Sheena Sharma. Liana Maria Surgutsidis. Michael Spence. Linda Vyong. Kyuk Ying. Marco Zedero. Yiting Zhao.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce you to Ms. Nicole Gauthier, a graduate of the Bachelor of Commerce Honors Program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
McMaster University is said to be founded upon 3 principles: creativity, innovation, and excellence. But what does it mean to be excellent or to succeed? Today, we celebrate a success that signifies not the completion, but rather the acceptance of a challenge. As McMaster graduates, we have been challenged to redefine the meaning of today as an innovation which will transform tomorrow's definition of excellence. Good morning, Chancellor, President Dean McNutt, distinguished faculty, honored guests, family, and fellow graduates. My name is Nicole Gauthier, and it is my honor to welcome you again to the DeGroote School of Business's 2012 commencement ceremonies. I thought it would be most appropriate to begin by exploring the very commencement of our university experience. 4 years ago, we met with our closest family and friends to decide if McMaster was going to become our home. For some, the decision to allow McMaster to become our home was deeply rooted in our family's history, but for others, it was the love of McMaster's campus. For some, the rationale was solely based on the opportunity to learn at such a prominent and remarkable university. Remembering those decisions 4 years ago, there are multiple individuals who have helped to facilitate the delivery of our degree today. The McMaster administration provided an establishment that would foster not only learning, but would lay the groundwork for individuals to develop and flourish. Dean McNutt, Associate Dean Medcoff, Dr. Nick Bontis, and all of the other individuals associated with the DeGroote School of Business have leveraged the foundation established by McMaster to build a platform for students to excel. I would like to take this opportunity to thank these individuals on behalf of the graduating class. As the architects of DeGroote, they truly cared about and contributed to our success. To our parents, our brothers and sisters, and our families and friends, I know I speak on behalf of the graduating class when I thank you. I thank you for being our foundation and our greatest cheerleaders, for teaching us that the difficult times, well, they too shall pass, and not to sweat the small stuff. You taught us to be safe, and that leaders lead, that we live with the consequences, both positive and negative, of the decisions we make, and that the greatest way to show your appreciation and to pay it back is to simply pay it forward. We would also like to sincerely thank you for that home-cooked meal when we ran out of ideas of how to spruce up craft dinner, for the laundry service, and for not renting out our rooms while we were away. Without each and every one of you, we would not be here. As we walked across this stage this morning, we did so with your hands on our backs. And from today, we will carry you as we succeed in our personal and professional lives, because it was you who carried us here today. To our professors, the catalysts of our learning experience, your contribution and influence on our lives is permanent. With every assignment, test, group project, and oh yes, your back-to-back Friday night and Saturday morning exams, you unconsciously provided us with permission to excel and to grow as individuals, as business professionals, and as leaders. Your lessons often extended beyond the solutions to your questions. Graduates who knew that a 2-page business report would engrave a citation guide for perfection in our minds. Quotation marks follow a period, now don't they, Rita? Each professor generously donated their time, experience, and expertise to springboard our imagination and understanding. On behalf of the graduating class, I thank you for your inherent ability to unleash the minds of your students. I'd like to take a moment to express congratulations and a sincere thank you to each student sitting here today from your fellow graduates around you. We work together as a collective entity, ensuring both the successes of ourselves while contributing to the accomplishments of our fellow students. We would not be here if it weren't for our financially inclined classmates explaining how to perform adjusting entries, our friends teaching us calculus, even if it was at 2 a.m. before the final exam, and those who made sure we stayed awake long enough to finish the 4 PA3 take-home exam. Teamwork was showcased at the latest hours, friends became tutors, and strangers became your greatest supporters. Graduates, I am honored and thankful to have had the opportunity to study, struggle, laugh, and succeed alongside of you, but most importantly, to learn from you. Throughout our classes here, our professors demanded the formation of creative and innovative solutions, with the expectation to challenge mainstream norms and the very boundaries we believe to be constant and true. I challenge you to continue this legacy because life will change whether you are ready or not. In the next 4 years, some of us will go to law school or complete an MBA. Some will begin working, travel the world, get married, or even have a family. I know it seems overwhelming, but I want you to think for a moment of how much our lives have changed in the last 4 years. 4 years ago, the world had not heard of an iPad. We believed that if we spent hours in Innes Library, we would actually get work done. RIM was the largest Canadian company, and the Toronto Maple Leafs weren't in the playoffs. Okay, well, not everything has changed. The lessons formed both within the classroom and beyond the walls of DeGroote have constantly demanded a dissatisfaction with the status quo. On a daily basis, we were challenged to invent innovative opportunities for individuals outside the traditional learning experience. I remember sitting in the first day of Commerce 1 PAO when Dr. Bonas provided a great laundry list of the activities we could get involved with. At the time, it was overwhelming, but something became very evident. We, as McMaster Commerce students, would learn just as much outside the classroom as we would inside. I'd argue we at times would learn more from competing in and hosting school competitions and participating in association events. Thank you to professors such as Mandeep Malik and Linda Stockton for pushing us to become people we never thought we could be. To the graduates, I encourage you to remember that like Teal McAteer and Peter Vilks taught us, lessons often come in the most unconventional of forms. Appreciate your experiences and contribute to the facilitation of these opportunities for others. The future is an uncertain entity. It is a concept that does not correlate itself with guarantees, givens, or absolutes. The only guarantee that we are privileged to is that today, June 13th, 2012, will be the only June 13th, 2012 you will have the honor of contributing to. Embrace a state in which you are immersed within the culture of life, because your degree does not represent today. It represents 4 years of your life. I challenge you to dream big, for your successes are only constrained by your ability to align your confidence, effort, desire, and dreams. Remember to stay true to yourself. McMaster has inspired the development of each and every one of us as unique leaders of tomorrow, trailblazers who embody integrity and respect. We have a responsibility now more than ever to create a tomorrow which provides stability both in the corporate and greater world. You can't change the world overnight, but it's the cumulative effect of your everyday decisions that will make a difference in someone's life. And don't forget to stay in touch. Hey, you never know. Maybe one day your experiences will transform into one of Linda Stockton's amazing stories in international business. Today does not mark an end or a conclusion in the chapter of our lives, but rather this ceremony marks an exciting beginning. Today we transform from the future generation to the present. We are now unleashed to contribute to something much larger than we ever have before. We'll have an opportunity to truly understand success, and we will now have the privilege to experience the rest of our lives from our own perspectives. Graduates, each day you will be provided with a new opportunity to leave your legacy on the world. Only you will define the boundaries of your potential. Congratulations. Thank you for the influence you've had on my life and the lives of so many others, and I wish you the best of luck in wherever your life and future successes may take you. Thank you.
May I again call upon our President, Dr. Patrick Dean, who will present the President's Award of Excellence in Instruction and the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership.
The President's Award for Excellence in Instruction is to be conferred upon Teal McAteer. I am an authentic and passionate teacher with integrity. I build relationships with my students that are based upon humanistic, encouraging principles, an equal emphasis on theory and practice, and encouragement of transformational learning. This is the philosophy of teaching that has guided Dr. McAteer's impressive 20-year teaching career at McMaster. She is an associate professor with an exceptionally strong record of teaching excellence at McMaster within the DeGroote School of Business undergraduate program, the MBA program, the Directors College, the Executive Education program, the DeGroote Burlington campus, McMaster's Center for Continuing Education, and McMaster's Health Leadership Institute. Doctors McNutt and Medcoff, acting and associate deans within the DeGroote School of Business, say it best. Dr. McAteer, they say, is fueled by passion, integrity, a humanistic impulse, and a drive to develop herself to better actualize her philosophy. Her excellent teaching has touched many students who have expressed their appreciation by awarding her outstanding teaching ratings and testimonials on how their experiences with her have impacted their academic and personal development. Dr. McAteer advocates bringing life experiences to the understanding and development of leadership skills. She believes transformational learning that changes one's frame of reference on issues, often as a result of confronting reactions to a life crisis or major transition, leads students to absorb more than pure intellectual knowledge. It prepares them to implement new ideas and new behaviors as required in our ever-changing work environments. Students who experience this type of transformational learning increase their change-embracing capabilities. Letters from students make clear that Dr. McAteer leads her students, quote, to achieve their personal bests, work towards their life goals, develop meaningful relationships, and overall live a more fulfilled life, end of quote. Besides her excellent teaching and mentorship of students, Dr. McAteer has continued her own intellectual development through workshops, presentations, and publications within the field of scholarship in teaching and learning. She mentors her colleagues on her philosophy and her methods of teaching both at McMaster and across Canada. Her scholarly work and her teaching have helped to raise McMaster's profile as an institution that values excellence in teaching and learning. She is an outstandingly deserving recipient of a 2012 President's Award for Instruction. Thank you. Congratulations. And now the recipient of the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership, Samuel Bong Si Cheng. Samuel Bong Si Cheng is a Dean's Honours student whose signature contributions to McMaster student life were part of his role as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the DeGroote Commerce Society. Under his leadership, the Society implemented a new peer mentorship program, enhanced significantly its commitment to external charitable organizations such as the World Wildlife Fund and CIBC Run for the Cure, introduced a new career development event series, and developed a strategic plan for the organization. Sam was also a member of the selection committees for both the Dean of Business and the Associate Dean Academic. In 2011, Sam was part of the winning team in the DeGroote Marketing Association's Mars Apprentice competition, most notably raising more than $6,000 for Ronald McDonald House in 5 days. He has also served as a teaching assistant for Commerce 2AB3 and been extremely active and successful in a number of marketing competitions, including the Manitoba International Marketing Competition, the DeGroote Business Challenge, and Canada's Next Top Ad Exec. Sam was also named the Rookie of the Year for Ontario by the Canadian Asian Student Society. As the Assistant Artistic Director of the McMaster Dance Company, Urban, Sam taught dance to students from elementary high school age, performed at a variety of charity events, and choreographed dances for performances and competitions. Congratulations, Sam. What a great achievement.
I would like to introduce the Acting Dean of the Faculty of Business, Dr. Robert McNutt, who will present several awards to the Faculty of Business graduates.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present the DM Mike Hedden Medal to Georgia Whitehead.
Congratulations, Georgia. I knew Mike Hedden. He was a classmate of mine. They want to take a picture of you. They want to take a picture of you.
The Basu Medal for a graduate student to Dewakar Malik.
Congratulations to you. It's a great honor. Good luck in your career. Let's take a picture.
The Alan J. Greb St. Joseph's Healthcare Medal to Danielle Jane.
Danielle, congratulations to you.
The Litvak Medal in Marketing to Andrew Perkins.
Congratulations to you. Al Litvak was a friend of mine, so enjoy it.
The R.J. Spence Memorial Medal to Noor Alion.
Thanks, Melissa. Congratulations to you. It's a great honor. Congratulations.
The E.H. Ambrose Gold Medal to Nicole Gauthier.
Thank you.
And the Basu Medal to an undergraduate, Arij Al-Sadi.
May I introduce to you Mr. Mark Stewart, a representative of the McMaster Alumni Association. Mark will now deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Wilson, President Dean, McMaster faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and members of the McMaster class of 2012. My name is Mark Stewart. I'm the president of the board of directors of the McMaster Alumni Association, and I'm honored, humbled, and proud to stand before you today to deliver this alumni address on the auspicious occasion of McMaster's 125th anniversary year. Thank you, Nicole and Dr. O'Reilly, for your inspiring and insightful remarks, and congratulations to today's award winners. Of all the convocation addresses that I've given, I think this is certainly one of the most meaningful for me. I received my MBA from the DeGroote School of Business in 2010. I had the opportunity to spend 4 months overlapping with a number of today's MBA graduates as they were beginning their studies, and I was also able to engage with a number of today's commerce graduates through their time at McMaster as well. So from this vantage point, I've been able to observe firsthand as you develop from eager first-year students into the sophisticated business professionals that you are as you walk across the stage today. When you step foot on the McMaster campus in first year, you really embarked upon a lifelong relationship with Mac that'll carry forward far past today's ceremonies. It's not only that your degree will be permanently recorded on your resumes and on your LinkedIn profile, but the changes in your thoughts, actions, and attitudes that McMaster had upon you will become a permanent part of who you are as a person. For me, the relationship I had with McMaster changed significantly when I left. The professors that I studied under became my friends and mentors. Classmates became people I could trust and do business with. And McMaster became a venue for me to pay it forward, where I can engage with students and help pass on some of the knowledge that was given to me by alumni when I was a student. As you know, truly, the strength of any relationship is a direct result of the effort that you put in. And personally, I want to share with you that my relationship to Mac as an alumni has been enriching and motivating, and I hope that you take the efforts to do the same. Now, recently, McMaster marked its 500th convocation ceremony, today being the 504th. In 504 convocations, over 150,000 graduates have been granted degrees from McMaster in convocation ceremonies in Toronto, on the McMaster campus in Hamilton, and more recently here at Hamilton Place. Upon walking across the stage, they spread out across the world, and today our alumni can be found in over 130 countries. Each and every McMaster class is unique, and in truth, shares only two exact things with all others. The first is the great potential you have as graduates of a truly great university, one recently ranked amongst the top 100 in the world. And I know you guys are business students, so you want some metrics. And what that means is McMaster has been recognized in the top 2/3 of 1% of universities in the world. The second is that we all share a history with McMaster, a familial connection and a responsibility to it and to each other to build on the legacy that we inherited and to continue McMaster's story of excellence. Really, the most important thing you can do to further the McMaster legacy is to make a positive impact on the world around you. Contribute to your professions, to your communities, to your families. As you know, your achievements reflect on everybody else wearing a graduation gown here today. Across the world, McMaster alumni are CEOs, they're executives, doctors, academics. At the Alumni Association Annual General Meeting 2 weeks ago, we were given a lecture by Nobel Prize-winning economist Myron Scholes, who developed the famous Black-Scholes option pricing model, also a proud McMaster graduate. But just as important are McMaster graduates who have roles as mothers and fathers, neighbors, volunteers, and leaders of all types. Leadership doesn't require a title or position, but just the willingness to take responsibility to make a difference. Now, the second thing you can do is stay engaged, and that's why the McMaster Alumni Association is here. You have in your hands the convocation booklet, which describes the programs and the opportunities you have to stay connected with the school and with your fellow grads. You're now automatically part of MAC 10, and this is a new program which has been very specifically designed to meet the professional, social, and intellectual needs of alumni who are within 10 years of graduation. So MAC 10 has events, career services, mentorships, online resources, and other ways that you can stay connected. So the Alumni Magazine, McMaster Times, will now be arriving in your mailbox, and you can follow the Alumni Association on email, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I do want to make a note. Please make sure that you send your permanent email addresses to alumni@mcmaster.ca, because when your current student addresses expire, we won't be able to connect with you through that channel. You'll now have access to value-added services like alumni discounts on home, auto, and life insurance, and you can join your alumni at one of hundreds of events that we hold annually across the world from Hamilton to Hong Kong. Now, before I finish, there is one special McMaster community building experience that I want to mention that happened just yesterday. And this was the first DeGroote MBA Legacy Ring Conferring event. So one of today's graduates, Ryan Moran, took a leadership initiative to start a new tradition. Yes, congratulations. To start a new tradition for DeGroote MBA graduates and envision a shared experience and a permanent reminder of our time here and the privileges and the responsibilities that our degrees imply. So in the future, All MBA graduates from DeGroote will join this legacy, and alumni will be invited to come back and participate as well. And as an alumni, I came back yesterday and participated in this experience, and now I walk proudly wearing my new DeGroote Legacy ring. So like many of you realize through the clubs and associations you're part of, winning MBA games, putting on events like Mars Apprentice, Focus 2040, you realize that the greatness of what you're involved with is truly a result of what you have done to make it great. So like this initiative, as your McMaster relationship transitions from student to alumni, these leadership opportunities still remain. The new question is, what will you do to make the McMaster and DeGroote alumni communities that you're now a part of great? But today, we're here to celebrate your success as students and toast the promise of your bright futures as alumni. So we offer our most sincere congratulations and a warm welcome to the McMaster alumni family, a family 125 years in the making. Thank you.
May I invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver his President's Address.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor, Dr. O'Reilly, esteemed colleagues, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be able to speak on occasions of this sort, and particularly to follow some of the other speakers who've stood at this podium. I think what I have to say will follow quite nicely on from some points Nicole made about the changing world into which all of you as graduates will proceed at the end of this event. Beginning with a little-known bit of information, in 2006, a group that you may or may not know about called Arms and Sleepers, it's a trip-hop ambient duo, produced an album with the title "Bliss Was It in That Dawn to Be Alive." So this album appeared at about the same time most of you were just beginning to contemplate which university you would choose, which program of study might suit you, and what career option might best satisfy your talents, your temperament, and your inclinations. Today, I would expect that at least some of you, and certainly a good number of your parents and supporters, will be looking back at that time of choice to which Nicole alluded, and marveling at the distance you have traveled since then. Now, as you sat there, weighing up one university prospectus against the other, good sense against the pressure of your peers, fear of the unknown against the desire for adventure, I'm not sure you would have said you were in a state of bliss at the time. Such discussions, as I recall with my own children, were always somewhat tense and usually ended with someone slamming down a book and saying to me, "Yes, Dad, but whose life is it anyway?" But to be poised at the opening of a new phase in your life, to have at least choices about how that phase will be constituted, to be able to dream of your future without the fear that you'll be proven naive for thinking that you have one, this is an experience of great privilege. It is something to be savored, and despite all the superficial anguish, I know you will today, as you look expectantly towards the future, you'll also remember back to that day in which you made your choice. You'll remember the pregnant quality, the powerful promise of that moment, to which the title of that Arms and Sleepers album applies. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. Now, those of you who know their literature and whose tastes don't incline to that sort of music are by now eager, I'm sure, to point out to me that the actual source for that phrase, bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, is a poet. And it's my prerogative as president to subject you to a reading of this just before you go out into the world. It comes from a poem called The Prelude by the English poet William Wordsworth, who remembers the excitement he felt in France when he arrived there in 1790, 1 year after the storming of the Bastille and the start of the French Revolution. The lines are very famous. I'll read you 5 of them. "O pleasant exercise of hope and joy! For great were the auxiliaries which then stood upon our side, we who were strong in love. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. but to be young was very heaven. Now, I've chosen this as the text for my remarks today, certainly because you are on the whole young, and you are gathered here today in a differently pleasant exercise of hope and joy, this ceremony of convocation. But there's a great more to the parallel than this. Those lines evoke a powerful sense of community. You'll remember the speaker says that our side is strong in love. And it is a community confronting a far-reaching and radical human transformation. And what invigorates in those lines is the prospect of doing something great, but moreover, doing it in partnership with others. Indeed, that's the excitement here, working with a community to achieve things, but also the making of community is the goal. The goal is a new human dispensation, a society which is not just an agglomeration of faceless, self-interested individuals, but an organism strong in love. It may be true that in every age, the young feel the same need for a fundamental reconsideration and reconfiguration of the human, not to mention the economic order. But there are compelling reasons to regard the present moment as an age of revolution, every bit as critical as that which began with the American Revolution in the last quarter of the 18th century, included the French Revolution, and continued for approximately 75 years. You're probably familiar with the term quiet revolution, which has a particular application in Canadian politics. It's usually taken to refer to the transformation of Quebec in the 1960s. But it's obviously relevant to the kind of dramatic and far-reaching shift in economic and social relationships that is presently underway on the world stage. And Nicole alluded to this, the sense of change, not only in the social world, but in the business world, the political world, and so on. I was recently in Brazil as part of the Governor General's educational mission to that country. And in one of our many meetings with Brazilian government and university officials, I was powerfully struck by the curious mixture in our position, the curious mixture of assurance and abjection or deference that defined our Canadian position. We were confident in our assumption that we had advantages that our Brazilian colleagues might want. For example, a mature and world-class university system. But we were abject or deferential in our awareness that this advantage is unlikely to continue for much longer, that very shortly the tables will be turned, and institutions in countries like our own will depend for their survival on their ability to adapt to a new world order, one in which they are not dominant. Now, about a month earlier, I was present when a similar scene played itself out, this time in England, where I was attending the British Council's annual conference on global higher education. At the opening event, a member of the British Cabinet addressed the approximately 1,400 delegates who had come to London from 120 countries around the world. And oddly oblivious to the reality that he was addressing representatives from the very market that he wished to exploit, he spoke at some length about the need to cultivate and sell abroad the British brand in higher education. The ironies attending his talk were profound, and I imagine they were not lost on many delegates from what one nowadays calls the BRICS countries, from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Such nations in the so-called developing world, having shaken off political subservience and begun to realize their economic potential, are being invited back into relationship with their previous masters, now in a new role as powerful customers, customers increasingly vital to the economies of those formerly dominant states. There is that combination again, assurance and abjection, in the British Cabinet Minister, just as in the Canadian delegation in Brazil. These are the symptoms of a quiet revolution that is underway across the globe, realigning power and wealth, problematizing relationships that have seemed settled since the 18th and 19th centuries, challenging the hegemony of received ideas of what one might call normative Europeanness, and making it certain that the new world coming will not be predictable on the basis of the old. Now, what fuels my own sense of bliss at this moment is the feeling developed over the last few decades working with students in a number of Canadian universities, but particularly strong, I might say, since my coming to McMaster, that many of you are eager to engage with the globe, not only as it is right now, but also as it is in the process of becoming. Indeed, many of you have already sought an active role in addressing economic disparities, suffering, violence, and inhumanity across the world. And we should be very proud of this, of the way in which what one might call a without borders sensibility has taken hold of your generation and given life to formal initiatives aimed at serving the world and its needs in very difficult times. You'll all be familiar with the most influential model, Doctors Without Borders, which has a strong McMaster connection. Dr. James Orbinski, who was president of Doctors Without Borders in the year in which the organization received its Nobel Peace Prize, was a medical student at this university. And Dr. Orbinski is connected with other organizations that are very strong at McMaster, notably Engineers Without Borders. As an institution, we have a long and distinguished history of high-quality engagement with global problems. And as many of you know, in the Faculty of Social Science, we host the McMaster Institute on Globalization and the Human Condition. Arching over these and many other globally oriented activities at McMaster is our institutional membership in United Nations Academic Impact, which commits us to the practice of higher education and research in support of the global good, the greater global good. Several years ago, in fact, we dedicated ourselves through education to the realization of the Millennium Goals of the United Nations. So to come to issues closer to all of you, today all the talk is of internationalizing higher education. This is one of the stated aims of our provincial government, our federal government, and of governments as well as educational institutions around the world. I'm fond of noting that in a recent survey conducted by the International Association of Universities, 87% of institutions reported that they included internationalization in their strategic plan. The Canadian consensus on this matter is quite clear. The Prime Minister led a delegation himself to Brazil last year. He has also led similar delegations to India and to China. It's clear then that our future lies in our international commerce, particularly in the knowledge-based industries, of which presumably the higher education from which you have all benefited is one. But it's interesting to note that there's far less commitment to the idea of internationalization in higher education, at least, in countries of the Middle East, Latin America, and the Caribbean, for example. And I think my stories about Brazil and the British conference provide a clue as to why this is the case. The fact is simply that for countries like our own, and even more so for Britain and the European nations, successfully finding new markets for their educational brands is a matter of survival. For the BRICS group, in contrast, partnership with mature nations and institutions helps to speed up a process of national development, which would likely occur without partnerships, if perhaps a little more slowly. What has become essential for some nations is merely convenient for others. I say all of this to indicate that while I could not be more encouraging and supportive and admiring of your every move to be a force for global change, and eager to see you all succeed in the borderless world of business, it is important that you reflect upon the potential contradictions of your position. To speak only of the internationalizing of higher education, what progress does it represent for the world if we fail to do anything but strengthen the normalizing claims of Western rationality as a way of interpreting and regulating others. I remember not so long ago when one first began to hear talk of an emerging knowledge economy. And today that discourse dominates our understanding of global commerce and culture. Relevant though it is at many levels, one has to wonder about the extent to which our proselytizing of that orthodoxy helps or hinders the growth and prosperity of peoples in developing regions of the world, where a different form, perhaps a Fordist model of industrial production, still remains critical. And as business graduates, I ask you to think carefully about the relationship between global business, in which nations compete with one another for economic advantage, and the idea of human advancement. Is it true that competition willy-nilly drives forward the progress of civilization, or does it reinforce global inequity? One gratifying outcome of the trip to Brazil, and with this I'll close, is confirmation that 12,000 Brazilian students will come to Canadian universities as part of their own government's Science Without Borders program. Science Without Borders is quite an extraordinary phenomenon, an international education initiative of amazing magnitude, one that will dramatically affect the future of Brazil as a power in research, innovation, and in business. It will provide scholarships to 100,000 Brazilian students, largely in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to pursue their studies at the best universities around the world. Because of its size, this program will have a major impact, not just on Brazil itself and on its economic growth, but on universities in all those countries fortunate enough to host scholarship students. For us in Canada and here at McMaster, there is the potential for self-renewal and development as our own paradigms and assumptions are challenged by the presence among us of outstanding students from Brazil. That must be the foundation of our engagement with the future and the globalized condition from which that future is inseparable. Traffic across borders must flow in both directions, as must the benefits, economic and otherwise, of global engagement. Without that, a new world community, strong in love, as Wordsworth puts it in those lines I read out, will be an illusion, and the expectant bliss of our present moment will go unfulfilled. To all of you, our own Scholars Without Borders, my warmest best wishes for the lives and for the careers you will make in the strange and unfamiliar territory that begins at the doors of this building. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Dean, for a very thoughtful, profound, inspirational address. Among other things, you touched on the McMaster brand, and Mark Stewart did the same in his address by referring to the development of the university over the last 20, 30 years. It is a very important aspect, and Dr. O'Reilly here, as one who worries about things like brands, will appreciate. This university has an outstanding brand, and it's incumbent upon all of us, you as recent graduates, all of us connected with the university, to ensure that the McMaster brand remains strong internationally as well as within this country. I mentioned yesterday I graduated 50 years ago this month at the 63rd convocation of this university. In the first 75 years of the university, we had 63 convocations. This is now the 504th convocation, so in the last 50 years, we've had 441 convocations. And that's a measure of how the university has developed and grown and developed the strength of its brand. So I must say, 50 years ago, we had perhaps 250 graduating students in one convocation. This year, we'll graduate perhaps between 5,000 and 6,000 graduates at 10 convocations this spring and 2 in the fall. You're part of a growing, successful university that has an outstanding brand, and I think all of us want to make sure that that's carried forward. I realize that I'm all that stands between you and lunch, refreshments. It's now 3 minutes to 12 by my clock. This has been a successful morning, and I once again congratulate all of you for your successes in the business program. A couple of announcements. Immediately following convocation, a reception will be held for the business graduates and their guests in the Hamilton Convention Center here, Wentworth Room C. Flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. I'd ask you to please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. And I'd ask you now to rise and join with me in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.
Thank you.